2 decades ago, the world was forever changed. Countless monstrous dungeons tore through the fabric of reality, and with them, humanity awakened to extraordinary powers. They became known as hunters. Our main character, however, has a rather unique ability. By squashing ants in a simple mobile game, he can generate mysterious dark coins. He has no idea that each tap of his finger holds a terrifying power. In the dark world, isn't this the power of a hunter? Realizing this, he rushes to the Hunter Association to get registered and tested. He's dreaming of becoming an S-rank hunter, surrounded by countless beautiful women, but reality hits him like a truck. His evaluated rank is a pathetic G rank. It's a rank so useless, it might as well not exist, making him no different from an ordinary person. There aren't even any dungeons a G ranker can enter, and the registration fee for his hunter license is gone. He barely has enough money for instant noodles. Broke and with an unstable job, his only escape is mindlessly killing those digital ants. Before long, his dark coin count surpasses 400. A new notification pops up. You have met the requirements to unlock the shop of a god. The entry fee is 100 coins, but the items inside are bizarre and incomprehensible, and their prices are astronomical. After grinding ants all night, he only has 300 coins left. Suddenly, his phone starts to glow. An item in the shop is on a massive discount. On a whim, he decides to buy it. The item is a skill, Eyes of the Blind God. Instantly, a shockwave runs through his body, and his vision blurs into nothingness. Thankfully, his sight returns to normal a moment later. That was absolutely terrifying. But now, he can read the strange characters in the game that were once illegible. He spots the cheapest skill available, God's Index Finger, for 100 coins. He recklessly buys it, but after activating it, absolutely nothing happens. All it seems to do is turn his TV and air conditioner on and off. So much for an amazing power. What a useless, damn skill. Just then, he notices a strange red ant on his screen. No matter how many times he taps, it refuses to die. It's as if it's taunting him. To be continued. He unleashes a barrage of attacks, but its speed is incredible. He still can't take it down. Veins pop on his forehead as he goes all out, but it's still no use. He grinds away until he passes out from sheer exhaustion. In his dream, he sees that same red ant reporting that it was attacked by an unknown dark god. Their grand mage senses this divine presence. It vows to avenge its kind and destroy him. He jolts awake, the dream feeling terrifyingly real. His phone is flooded with notifications about an ant invasion. A white-bearded ant appears on the screen. Shockingly, it unleashes an attack that actually hurts him in the real world. Just as the ant army celebrates their apparent victory, countless streams of energy rain down from the sky, wiping out almost all of them. The Grand Mage is left with almost nothing. It turns out, in his rage, he had punched his phone screen directly. That explains the overkill. When he sees his shattered screen, he starts crying over the cost. At that moment, a new notification appears. Congratulations, you have obtained the title, Evil God. Effect: increased luck of an unknown god. He muses that he's a good citizen, who's never even heard a fly, yet the system branded him with such an ominous title. He then notices a ring has appeared. It exudes a wonderful fragrance. When he puts it on, he feels a surge of vitality, and the exhaustion from his all-night grinding session vanishes miraculously. Additionally, the Eyes of the Blind God skill has now fully activated. It's an appraisal skill. He tests it out by looking around his room. The TV was used for 1 year, with 3 months of payments remaining. His laptop, used for 1 year and 2 months, with 6 months of payments left. And his bed, used for 15 years, should be thrown away immediately. His other belongings are in a similarly sorry state. He figures God of Poverty would be a more fitting title. Determined, he decides to return to the Hunter Center for a re-evaluation. But he's met with a harsh reality. The retest fee is 160,000 won. He'd rather save that money for instant noodles. That's when he discovers his appraisal skill also works on people. Suddenly, his eyes land on a girl named Mary. A special note says she is currently suffering from a major shock. Intrigued, since this is the first person whose name he can see, he approaches to ask if she's all right, but he's immediately mistaken for a creep and nearly gets beaten up for it. Later that afternoon, he's out with his adorable niece. Using appraisal, he sees that she's craving a chocolate ice cream cone. The moment he offers to buy her one, she starts drooling with excitement. They head to the nearest ice cream shop, but when he pays with loose change, the employee looks down on him. She even gives them a smaller portion than usual. In an instant, he activates his Index Finger of God skill. The ice cream machine goes haywire, spewing out an endless stream. His niece ends up with a gigantic, supersized cone, but when he asks for a bite, she flat out refuses. Just then, his phone flashes with a warning. Title: Brutal God of Slaughter has been activated. A challenger's imposing voice echoes through the air. Oh, one who walks the path of the great evil god. I shall devour everything, including the trials you face, to become a true demon god. A massive, minotaur-like monster materializes before him. Using appraisal, he discovers it's a 400-year-old beast. Its goal is to kill him and claim the challenge of a god. Just in the nick of time, Mary, the B-rank hunter from before, rushes to the scene. She unleashes a colossal lightning strike, but the monster is completely unfazed. That's because this minotaur is an A-rank monster. Her power is nowhere near enough to handle it. Still, Mary can't just stand by and watch them die. She yells for him and his niece to escape as fast as they can. She declares that she'll hold it off. Her energy is completely drained. The monster charges, its horns just inches away. She closes her eyes, certain this is the end. But suddenly, a strange voice resonates in her mind. In the next moment, her body erupts with an overwhelming storm of lightning, instantly turning the monster into a well-done steak. Mary has no idea where that immense power came from, mistakenly believing the voice was his. Meanwhile, he's completely clueless about what just happened. All he gets is a notification. You have cleared the trial of the brutal god of slaughter. Your level has increased by 1. The reward is 1 free item from the low-rank God's Authority section of the shop. Later that night, another notification arrives. It's a plea for help from the Saintess of the Dark Tribe. She is praying for him to save her tribe, which is under invasion by the Ant Empire. Being the good guy he is, he can't just ignore their plight. With a single tap of his finger, the Red Ant leader is instantly obliterated. In return, he earns the Saintess's absolute worship. He also gains a new title, Merciful Savior, and for his divine intervention, he's rewarded with 10,000 coins. He bursts out laughing. This time, he's seriously rich. He immediately opens the shop to go on a spending spree. First up is the Blessing of a Low-Rank God, priced at 1,000 coins. Its effect is to awaken hidden potential, growing stronger with each use. But when he drinks it, he feels absolutely nothing. It tastes just like an energy drink. So, he chugs the entire stock and blacks out. A notification appears. Synchronization rate with the Almighty has increased from 0 to 5%. When he finally comes to, he finds himself on his bed, surrounded by a swarm of real-life fire ants, all frantically attacking him. Left with no choice, he is forced to unleash the power of the god's index finger, model. He'd wiped out a wave, but the horde was endless, unleashing a storm of arrows. Shin's stamina was hitting 0 when he spotted a can of bug spray. He unleashed the toxic mist in the next room, sneering, "Say your prayers. You dare attack a broke-ass god?" But then, his body completely froze up. A system notification popped up. The high-tier god, Silent Nightmare, has bestowed upon you a gift. With no other choice, he took the gamble and accepted it. His body, already past its limits, finally gave out. He thought he would die a pathetic death, but Emily burst in just in time to save him. At the hospital, Miri and her niece came to visit. The little girl didn't even recognize him. Shin was covered in severe burns, wrapped in bandages like a mummy. Outside, a large bouquet of flowers had been left by a mysterious visitor. It was from Miri. She couldn't understand why she could only unleash her full power when she was near him. For 4 days, she'd watched him, thinking he was just a handsome face, and nothing more. How disappointing. But just as she was about to leave, Shin began to act strangely. It turned out the Saintess and her people from the Dark Tribe were praying for him. Wait, he wasn't even dead yet. He was about to get annoyed when they offered him their tribe's sacred treasure. His expression did a complete 180. It was the fruit of the world tree. Its main effect was to forge the body into an unbreakable fortress. Without a second thought, he shoved it into his mouth. It felt like a powerful electric shock, and the taste was overwhelmingly salty and spicy, making it hard to eat. But its quality was undeniable. The burns covering his body healed in an instant. Witnessing this, Miri was even more confused. Just who was this man? Just then, his phone lit up. System alert! The Creator's blessing function has been activated. He could now bestow blessings upon his followers. This guy looked over at some candy bars and a brilliant idea sparked. The flavor was heavenly, but more importantly, it could heal wounds. A completely severed arm grew back in seconds. This miracle brought joy to his followers, a reward from their broke-ass god, Shin. This act also increased his faith points, which converted into 10,000 coins. The next day, he headed to the Hunter Marketplace to sell some gear and pay for the damages to his apartment. Being broke and unlucky is a terrible combination. Just then, a group of hunters showed up. They were there to sell an armor set that looked incredibly impressive, asking for 300 million won. But Miri's appraisal skill saw right through it. The armor was just scrap metal, with a simple amplification buff enchanted on it. Just as the shopkeeper was about to pay, Shin's voice cut through the air. "That's a fake." The entire group froze. A hulking brute stormed over and grabbed him. "What the hell would you know?" Shin simply used a skill, and with a single touch, the armor crumbled into junk. The hunters were completely stunned. The brute still wanted to charge forward for revenge, but he was held back by one of his smarter companions. He recognized the man before them as a high-rank hunter they couldn't afford to provoke. They immediately turned and ran. The employee thanked Shin profusely, grateful she hadn't been scammed. Shin then took out his own ring, hoping to sell it for some quick cash, but it was worthless. The appraisal skill even told him to give it to Miri, which confused him. Meanwhile, Miri was watching him from afar, convinced this guy was a high-rank hunter hiding his true power, someone who could see her identity and possessed godlike regeneration. He might be the one who could help her break past her own limits. Before, she thought this guy was a pervert, but now she was the one acting like a stalker, constantly spying on a handsome guy. Even though she wore a mask and was completely covered, Shin recognized her easily. He simply gave her the ring. A few days later, Miri checked her hunter stats. Over 7,000 MP. She was only a B-rank hunter, yet her mana pool was now greater than an A-ranker's. It was all thanks to the ring he gave her. At that same moment, in the Dark World, the Ant Monarch had issued a decree. He commanded General Kamakiri and his army of 5 million soldiers to annihilate the unknown Dark God. Shin also received the warning. This was no dream. The last time, he'd wiped out over 100,000 of their troops, but this new army was 50 times larger. The scale of the threat was a massive headache. Just then, Silent Nightmare, the high-tier Dark God, sent him a message. He showed Shin a path to power. Just sacrifice 100 humans, especially those closest to him. Shin immediately blocked him. Suddenly, his god's all-seeing eye skill activated. He saw the vast Imperial Ant army preparing its invasion. The time remaining was 4 days. The Saintess and his 101 followers were terrified of the Empire's attack. Before his room was even repaired, he had to prepare thoroughly for this battle. First, he needed to check his own stats. He looked in the mirror, used his appraisal skill, and it only displayed a single word: failure. What kind of useless skill was that? Next, he went skill shopping. God's Finger of Judgment. The name was cool, but it was basically just a fancy lighter. The description claimed its true power would awaken when combined with the God's Finger of Judgment, but he couldn't see any difference. To make matters worse, his editor was rushing him to release the next chapter of his web novel. The pressure on an author is immense. If you don't get views, you end up eating instant noodles instead of proper meals. Meanwhile, Miri came to visit. She even used the front door to be polite, instead of climbing through the giant hole in the wall. But Shin wasn't home. While he was working himself to exhaustion, he had passed out and been kidnapped by those hunters from before. They took him to an abandoned warehouse. They demanded he compensate them for ruining their business deal. One of them even joked that robbers use QR codes now, so a quick transfer would solve everything. At that moment, his phone lit up. System notification. The Imperial Legion has arrived. Countless red ants poured out of his phone, engulfing one of the robbers in the blink of an eye. All that was left of him was his belt. The Ant Legion assembled in perfect formation, ready for battle. The other two thugs thought his power was just controlling insects. He immediately unleashed a fire attack, wiping out the entire first wave. Then, he turned his attack on Shin. Smack! This guy was suddenly knocked down by a powerful stone projectile from the ant army. How could they be so strong? The big guy frantically tried to escape, but it was useless. Just as before, the moment the battle began, the entire area had been sealed. The ant commander gave the order, and countless stones rained down, finishing him off instantly. His body was slowly devoured by the swarm. Shin was still tied up. Was he going to die here? Suddenly, a bolt of lightning ripped through the warehouse. Boom! A massive shockwave wiped out most of the Ant Legion. Emily Meiji had appeared once again. She had come to his rescue. In the general's eyes, Shin was a terrifying dark god. If his subordinate was this powerful, it would certainly threaten the empire and the throne of his majesty. He resolved that today, even if it cost him his life, he had to eliminate the dark god's subordinate. The general sacrificed the heads of all his fallen ant warriors to gain power. In one move, he slaughtered his own men. His aura became terrifying. He charged at Miri with insane speed. Even her powerful thunderstorm skill was shattered by his single, decisive slash. To see Miri murdered so brutally, defiling her majesty is a crime punishable only by death. You vile god, you are next. Veins bulging, Shin roars as he summons the system. A game system window flashes before his eyes. He activates a divine skill, spending 100 currency to rewind time, just moments before Miri was killed. Then, he uses 100,000 gold to power up. In a flash, he shatters his chains and snatches Miri away from the Ant General's devastating attack. At that moment, his eyes erupt in a golden light, radiating immense power. He looks impossibly cool. Miri's suspicions are confirmed. He is undoubtedly a master hiding his true strength. Shin unleashes the judgment of a god, but the attack looks strange. Boom! A shockwave tears through the warehouse, obliterating it completely. The entire ant legion is wiped out in a single blow. Witnessing this, Miri's jaw drops to the floor. She immediately begs to be his disciple, despite his desperate explanations that he's just a G-rank rider, a hunter with practically zero abilities. She sees right through him. She knows he's the protagonist of this whole story. Sticking by his side is a guaranteed power-up. Cleverly, she decides to take responsibility for him, or rather, for the wall she broke earlier. In a flash, she renovates his room until it's like new. To thank the girl, he gifts Miri the blessing of a god. Overjoyed, the girl departs, leaving him to eat alone. Just as he's enjoying some grilled meat, a news flash appears on TV. An S-rank Drake has emerged from a gate. A hunter has appeared on the scene, but it seems she can only buy enough time for the people to escape. It's none other than the Lightning Queen, Miri. The live broadcast shows her desperately battling the monster to protect the evacuating civilians. But this is an S-rank monster. She isn't sure she can stop it. Then, she unleashes an all-out lightning attack that smites the beast with shocking ease. How is this possible? A rookie B-rank hunter just easily cooked an S-rank monster? The legend of Lightning Queen Miri was spreading like wildfire. But just then, the monster rises again, sending her flying with a single strike. In this moment of crisis, Miri remembers the yellow potion her master gave her. After drinking it, her body crackles with terrifying lightning as her eyes glow with divine power. She unleashes the thunderstorm skill, instantly incinerating the beast. This leaves even Shin speechless. He never expected his disciple to be so powerful. In her post-victory interview, Miri shouts directly to the camera, "Master, are you watching? I did it." That video went viral. Everyone became intensely curious about the Lightning Queen's mysterious master. Meanwhile, she was just at his house eating noodles. Shin tells her to go home and stop freeloading, but Miri says there's no one waiting for her. Her parents were lost in the Dragon Legger incident. The whole world had united, but still couldn't defeat them. They were a nightmare that had claimed millions of lives. Just then, a system notification appeared. You have gained the target's favor and trust. If the target says the keyword "I believe in you," Shin, you will activate faith. He thinks for a moment. This would make her a believer, just like the Saintess. If it works, he'll be rewarded with a mountain of divine coins. And he has no idea when those ants will attack again. The more divine coins, the better. He immediately asks Miri to repeat his words. I believe in you, Shin. It was almost too easy. The mission was complete. His phone lit up with a notification. Congratulations, Miri is your first believer on Earth. The skill-sharing menu was now available, allowing him to borrow his believer's skills. This made him furious. What he wanted was coins. Spit them out already, he raged. At that moment, a spatial gate opened. The Ant Empire was delivering the Emperor's command, but he couldn't care less. First, he had to test Miri's thunderstorm skill. With a single word, a massive explosion blew his entire room away. This made her exclaim, Master, you're a public menace. He, on the other hand, was crying a river. Where would he get the money for this? He was already broke. At the same time, the Ant Queen received the report. The Locust platoon had been annihilated. It seemed that Evil God had no intention of negotiating. The Emperor was absolutely livid. That arrogant god. In 500 years, I have never been so humiliated. Bring me the head of that fool, he roared. The next day, Shin began training Miri, since he was stuck with her as his disciple. The blessing of a god he gave her was basically just an energy drink, but for Miri, its effects were monumental. It was the only way he could help her. Shin used his all-seeing eye of God to peer into Miri's mind. The scene inside shocked him. A magnificent lightning white tiger was sealed within her body. It was an S-rank power, bound by an SS-rank seal. The reason she grew stronger near him was because his god's finger skill was accidentally weakening the seal, acting almost like a power switch. In other words, all her power would be unleashed if he could just completely sever the seal. But with his current strength, that was still impossible. Meanwhile, his frequent dates with the beautiful girl had been noticed by a mysterious stalker, deciding to head home for a good night's sleep. He found his room completely gone, like a 1,000-star open-air hotel. As if that wasn't bad enough, two so-called evil gods appeared to harass him. So annoying. They wanted to reclaim the sword in his hand. After some intense haggling, he finally received a care package, the Infinity Sword and 2.2 million divine coins. He also got 3 uses of the Heavenly Tao's treasure from Absolute Iron Heavenly Blade, plus the Rose That Blooms at Night from Silent Dream, to unlock 𝐳𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐧𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐧𝐬 for him. The Rose That Blooms at Night skill could only be used in his sleep, and the Infinity Sword seemed to do nothing. Suddenly, he was overcome with a bloodthirsty desire to slash everything. This sword was insane. A nearby restaurant mistook him for a junkie and asked him to chop vegetables, which he did until dawn. They had no idea the agony he was in. After hours of chopping, Shin finally returned to normal. Exhausted, he fell asleep. At that moment, the Queen's ant forces arrived. They wanted to ambush him and seize his top position among the 10 swords. The skill, Rose That Blooms at Night, activated. Countless soldiers charged forward, only to be devoured by it. Their leader was terrified. What is this thing? She realized it was the dream flower from her tribe's ancient records, which spoke of a tyrannical god, a god who had devoured over 90% of the people living in their territory 3.5 thousand years ago. She immediately ordered an all-out attack, but it was futile. All of them were swallowed by the dream flower. The next morning, Xu Xin woke up with no idea what had happened overnight. His phone showed a notification. The saintess and his believers were praying for him to save them. Using his appraisal skill, he saw they had been poisoned by bees. He scoffed, thinking they were fools for disturbing a hive. But he still had to use a miracle, costing 100,000 currency to heal them. What a waste. A magical rain descended from the heavens, and their poisoned bodies were quickly cleansed. With that, his title, Benevolent Savior, leveled up from E rank to D. His very ego shifted from evil god to neutral god, catching the attention of several powerful deities. He woke from a deep sleep to find Miri by his side. But that wasn't all. A statue of him stood nearby. So ridiculous, it was laugh out loud, hilarious. It was a monument built by the Black Ant tribe to honor their new god. But damn, it was ugly. So ugly, in fact, that someone who didn't know better might actually treasure it. Our main character knew he was handsome, but this level of worship was a bit much. Meanwhile, the roots of the world tree, planted by his followers, were ailing. The great tree was showing signs of disease. It was on the verge of withering away. Even the blessing of the god of growth had no effect. The fruit of the world tree was incredibly valuable. He couldn't just let it die. If he could sell it as a healing potion, he'd be filthy rich. After a quick search, Shin found an item in the system shop. Tears of the God of Abundance for 20,000 coins. But to buy it, he had to complete a quest. The mission: clean up trash for 100 points. Suddenly, an old man appeared and stopped him, claiming this was his territory. Shin just assumed he was a homeless man. So, he offered the man the last of his money so he could get a decent meal. But unexpectedly, the old man got furious, shouting about being given charity by a god named 𝐳𝐿𝐭𝐴𝐧𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐧𝐬𝐿. Turns out, this old man was a legendary S-rank hunter who once worked as a street cleaner. He acted all high and mighty, but his hand quickly snatched the money and pocketed it. What a character. And to top it off, the old guy used the cash to buy booze. Shin didn't forget his mission and asked the hunter to throw his trash in his bag to help him earn points. The old man found this kid amusing. Just then, a monster appeared nearby. The S-rank hunter didn't hesitate, but what was infuriating was that he dragged Shin along for the ride. His speed was like lightning, leaping so high it scared Shin half to death. As someone with a fear of heights, this was pure terror. The landing almost killed him. Before them stood a giant frog monster, but the old hunter showed no fear. He charged straight in to attack it. The hero Hua Yumeng also appeared, launching her own assault. But after a moment, the so-called S-rank hunter was swallowed whole by the beast. Luckily, he was spat back out, since he held no ill will toward Shin. But the stench was overpowering. Just then, a notification popped up on his phone. You have defeated an evil servant of the demon god, contributing to the protection of world peace. Progress: 1,000 out of 100. You have received a mythical item, Tears of Endless Prosperity. The effect of the Tears of Endless Prosperity was activated. The curse on the world tree was instantly healed. And to thank him for saving their sacred tree, his followers carved yet another statue in his honor. He could only hope it looked a little better this time. However, their craftsmanship hadn't improved one bit. It was painfully ugly, an insult to anyone who looked at it. Suddenly, he received a new message. It was from the Ant Saintess. She begged him to save her Black Ant tribe. One of their members had been attacked by the demon tribe. Shin was furious. How dare they attack his people? Give me their location. I'll handle this, he declared. But when he saw the horde of demon snakes, he froze in terror. The sheer number was overwhelming. The Black Ant tribe thought their end had come, but the saintess urged everyone not to worry. We are protected by our god, Shin. Yet, when they turned around, their god was already running for his life. They were in utter shock. They'd been played for fools. But it turns out, he was just running home to grab a can of bug spray. He returned and knocked the entire swarm of monsters unconscious. Then he ordered his followers to finish them off. A system notification appeared. New skill available. God's Thumb. Cost 100 coins. He was about to test it out when he got a call from his editor-in-chief. While they were out for drinks, his editor chewed him out for not releasing chapters regularly, making the readers complain. The editor had no idea how hard Shin had to work just to find inspiration for his stories, so don't forget to like this video. That night, his followers, finally, finished off the demon swarm, and Shin received a reward of 300 million coins. The system advised him to bestow a skill upon his followers to make them stronger. But our hero was completely drunk, and just picked one at random, selecting the most expensive skill available, creation of heaven on earth for 1 quadrillion divine coins. Of course, he didn't have nearly enough money, so the system adapted the skill for a one-time use, permanently altering a part of the world to fit Shin's power. The sky suddenly turned strange, sending a wave of shock across the entire planet. A second moon had appeared in the sky. Earth Command sent a spaceship to approach this new celestial body, but it completely lost control as it got near. The moment the second moon appeared one morning, everyone was left speechless and terrified. No one knew anything about it, other than the fact that it glowed yellow at night and green during the day. Experts predicted that gates and dungeons would begin to surge in number. As a result, the Korean Hunters Association announced it would cooperate with the government to identify the second moon's location. The next day, while training Miri, Shin had to enter her mind once again. But this time, the white tiger spirit was much cuter than before. It seemed to know he was helping to break its seal, and it even started licking him like a familiar friend. Outside, Miri could feel her own power growing immensely, mistaking it for the effectiveness of his training methods. Later, the ant saintess asked him to give her a proper name. He decided to name the little ant Auntie. Soon, countless other followers were begging for names as well. It was a real headache. Their tribe was officially named Garami. Now that they had evolved, he put them to work building a base, but he accidentally placed a warrior's tower in the middle of it, a trial only the bravest warriors could challenge. The chance of survival was nearly zero. It was a huge threat to his ant children, so he had to build a fence around it. But one strong-looking ant warrior stood up to the challenge. He wanted to gain the power to protect his comrades from the emperor of the empire. Meanwhile, the high priestess of that very empire had returned. She was now highly revered, and this time, she would personally lead the hunt for the Black Ant tribe and their so-called god. But Shin was busy frantically writing his script. He had to meet his new chapter deadline for the publisher. If he was late this week, he would be officially unemployed. He checked in on his followers, finding most of them sleeping soundly. Only the ant from before was still training relentlessly to protect his people. It seemed that after evolution, each individual gained their own unique traits. Shin decided to lend him a hand. He bestowed upon the warrior a divine blessing, but he failed to notice that outside, the high priestess's minion had arrived and was targeting him. I never thought I'd see a mosquito this evil, folks. It was plotting to suck his blood to steal divine power for itself. It shot forward at top speed and bit him, carrying the malaria parasite, but as it was savoring the divine blood. Whack! It was flattened in an instant. Suddenly, a chill ran down Shin's spine as he shivered and sneezed. He went to wash his face, but a strange tattoo had appeared on his forehead. A system notification popped up. The curse of the common cold has been activated. Along with it came other curses. The curse of muscle aches and the curse of lost appetite. He immediately had to find a cure. The item cost 50,000 coins, but to get it, he would have to complete yet another mission. To clear the mission, he had to save 100 people. Just then, a bald fanatic stormed the hospital, strapped with bombs and threatening everyone. He spotted the tattoo on Shin's forehead and assumed this guy was an ally sent on the same mission. Emily, completely bewildered, began arguing with the bomber. "That's my master. You idiot. Don't you dare slander him. His finger techniques are on a whole other level." Meanwhile, Shin had already delved into the man's memories, identifying the mastermind. Then, with a flick of his index finger, he shattered the detonator. In that split second, Miri moved like lightning, taking the terrorist down. But just as victory was theirs, a critical situation unfolded. The death curse activated. Shin collapsed into darkness. In his dream, he found himself in a strange, empty void. Suddenly, a terrifying voice boomed. A fledgling god dares to awaken me? For your insolence, your punishment is an endless, agonizing death. Soon, you will drown in despair and beg me for release. But before the entity could finish, the dreamless flower devoured it whole. The mission to save 100 people was finally complete, and the reward potion kicked in. His body began to regenerate at an incredible speed. Far away, the mastermind behind the cult witnessed everything. He gave his underlings a new order: capture Miri and Shin within 4 days. He could feel the divine protection that was seeping into the boy's body. That night, the ant warrior from before desperately sought Shin's help. He needed more of the god's blessed water. He'd recklessly challenged the warrior's tower and almost paid the ultimate price. A 10-second countdown to his death had begun. Shin tried to use the blessed water, but the system wouldn't allow it. Thinking fast, he used a recovery potion to save the man's life. But another problem arose. Once you enter the warrior's tower, there's no escape until you conquer the 50th floor. The warrior was back to begging the god for help, so Shin had to buy him a mountain of energy drinks. Suddenly, a knock echoed at the door. When Shin opened it, he was met with a towering, intimidating man who introduced himself as Chief Kim, a scout for the Williams Guild. Meanwhile, the ant warrior, having received the title Eternal Seeker, had become overwhelmingly powerful. A single punch shattered a massive boulder, and he began clearing the tower's floors with ease. At the same time, our main character was receiving an unbelievable offer to become a hunter for the Williams Guild, with a salary of 300 million a year. Shin's mind raced. With 300 million, he could write his manuscripts in peace, free from his wicked manager. He could eat all the kimchi fried rice his heart desired. He could barely contain his excitement. The deal got even sweeter. A 70% cut of all items and bonuses for every monster slain. But just then, his appraisal skill activated. The man before him was a servant of the god of destruction. This was clearly a trap. Shin quickly faked a stomachache and escaped to the bathroom. He was about to call the Hunter Association or the police when the man smashed through the door, landing a devastating blow. He grabbed Shin by the throat, lifting him off the ground, intending to knock him out and drag him away. Just then, his phone lit up. An urgent quest notification. Rescue the believer on Earth. Miri is in grave danger. Shin needed power, and he needed it now. The ant warrior instantly shared his skill with Shin. Skill: Iron body activated. Power erupted through his entire being. With a single blow, he sent the massive man flying back. His body was now perfectly sculpted, a testament to the power the little ant had forged inside the warrior's tower. His opponent knew he couldn't be careless anymore. I was a fool to be disappointed. I was to think I was given such an easy mission. I'm not sure if the situation with the Thunder Empress is resolved, but I won't be playing around any longer. Shin launched a powerful punch, but the man dodged it. He scoffed. You're just a rookie. How can a newbie with no experience possibly win? His taunt was cut short by a fist smashing his jaw. Another punch sent him crashing to the floor. So much for all that talk. Shin immediately used the system to locate Miri. For 100 SU, he found her. She had been defeated by the sword demon, her life hanging by a thread. If that guy was a sword demon, Shin had a sword too. It was just a little small. He spent 100,000 SU to rewrite his fate, instantly teleporting to her side. The enemy, high on an inner side, Infinity Sword and his own knife, was in a battle frenzy. The sword demon lunged, his attack a blur of motion, but Shin easily blocked it with his tiny knife. The man was stunned. What is this? Not even an S-rank hunter can block my sword. But this guy did it with a tiny dagger? He unleashed his ultimate technique, but Shin parried it like he was slicing fruit. He attacked again and again, but every single strike was effortlessly blocked. The man began to panic. Could he really be the Thunder Empress's master? An unofficial hunter, managed directly by the government? No wonder there's no information on him. The sword demon resorted to using a power-enhancing drug, knowing the side effect was a shortened lifespan. Power surged through his body, and a tattoo, identical to the bomber's, appeared on his face. It was undoubtedly a curse from the god of destruction. He moved with blinding speed, launching a final, desperate attack. He thought victory was his, but his sword shattered upon impact. Shin's head had twisted a full 180 degrees to block the blade with his neck. Is this guy even human? He must be using hacks. In response, Shin unleashed countless sword strikes. The enemy braced for impact, ready to meet his end, but he was completely unharmed. Shin calmly declared himself a sword saint, one who stands at the very pinnacle of the path of the sword. Only, Those who have reached the apex can claim such a title. But just then, a system notification appeared. The skill-sharing time for Iron Body had ended. He was back to his useless self. The Sword Saint's divine blade reverted to a mere fruit knife. As he was about to run, the enemy suddenly dropped to his knees. "Please, allow me the honor of witnessing more of your swordsmanship. O great Sword Saint, I will be your loyal servant." Shin's only concern was Miri. The man instantly understood and rushed to her side, giving her a potent healing potion. "As long as she's not dead, this will restore her instantly." He then offered to take his own life to atone for hurting her, but Shin stopped him. This sword demon was a legendary assassin. The number of targets who had survived him could be counted on 2 hands. Shin gave him a new command: "Go kill the ones who hired you." This was the man's chance to turn the tables on his former masters. As a command from the Sword Saint, he couldn't possibly refuse. A perfect plan to make the enemy destroy themselves. A notification popped up. "You have obtained a fanatical believer. New authority, prosperity, unlocked." A copy skill. This was his ticket to printing money. Or so he thought. He immediately tried to copy a 101 coin, but it failed spectacularly. After a moment of thought, he decided to use his new skill to create more ant warriors. Suddenly, Shin noticed the ant saintess, who was using her healing magic on what used to be the editor-in-chief. Desperate for a new chapter, Jin has a flash of insane genius. He'll forge a clone of himself using his prosperity skill. He was just messing around, but it actually worked. A clone appeared. A tall, handsome duplicate materialized before him, active for 666 seconds. Jin tried ordering his new assistant to write the script for him, only to get his face smashed in for his troubles. The clone then performed forced cosmetic surgery, making Jin even more handsome, before verbally tearing into his editor, "You're ugly and single. Get lost." With that, the clone transformed into a brutal, murderous version of Jin and dived straight into his phone. It single-handedly began to wipe out the monsters daring to attack the Dark Tribe. An entire imperial army was swiftly annihilated. With the Empress in seclusion, aiming for a god-level breakthrough, a female official took charge of the situation. She summoned the 10 swords. "Dealing with the Dark Tribe is our top priority. Bring me the head of that demon god before Her Majesty's training is complete." At that very moment, Jin finally woke up. The memory of being beaten by his own creation filled him with rage. To make matters worse, his publisher had cancelled his contract and was now demanding a massive penalty fee. Inside his phone, the murderous clone was rampaging across neighboring kingdoms, adding to Jin's shock. He frantically typed to meet his deadline when suddenly, a new notification popped up. System alert. Follower Sword Demon is in grave danger. A rescue mission was activated. He was enduring extreme torture but refused to betray the one who sent him. The Sword Demon had been captured while attacking Jin's guild. His captors were all blessed followers of the God of Destruction, making them incredibly durable. They were his former colleagues from when he worked for the guild. The bald one, unable to stomach his betrayal, was ready to execute him on the spot. With the situation critical, Jin immediately used his share ability, copying the power of his Iron Body clone. He teleported into the fray, stunning everyone with his sudden appearance. He then tried using Miri's lightning skill, but the system protested. At his divine level, he could only use one shared ability at a time. His body began to overload, spasming from the excess power, but the bald-headed fool just thought Jin was mocking him, making him even angrier. He lunged forward, only to be stopped by an immense surge of power that paralyzed his entire body. Jin, however, was completely unharmed, protected by the Iron Body's ability to withstand overload. The female cultist unleashed a torrent of fire at him, but with the Iron Body active, it felt like a pleasant hot spring. He then took her down with a single, decisive blow. Just then, the Iron Body skill expired. Perfect timing. The rescue mission was complete, and his talent skill leveled up. He was wondering how to escape when a naked weirdo appeared. "Hey man, I'm straight. Don't try anything funny." The man was Priest Johann, a follower of the God of Destruction. "I'm so excited. My whole body is trembling. I can't believe I've finally met a fellow apostle." As Johann moved towards him, the sword demon tried to intervene but was swatted away effortlessly. Jin couldn't believe this pervert was so powerful. "Which god do you serve?" Johann asked. "Ha! I am a god myself. I don't need to follow anyone," Jin roared, unleashing a mighty punch that shattered the priest's halo. But Johann wasn't defeated. Jin followed up with a lightning attack. He heard screams of agony, but still couldn't take him down. This guy wasn't just a normal pervert. He was a super-powered one. My skills timer ran out. I can't use the lightning punch anymore. Was this how it ends? Pinned down by this creep? With no other options, Jin pointed his thumb to his forehead. preparing to summon his murderous clone once more. This time, remembering the beating he took for giving orders, he stayed silent. The clone appeared and immediately warned him, "The Kazami tribe is in danger. Don't you realize your followers are dying off? Your divine power is fading with them." With that, the clone dived back into the phone to save his people. But before leaving, he reminded Jin, "Use times that times move. God's judgment." Jin aimed his middle finger, expecting an epic attack, but it was as weak as a flick from a lighter. The priest's face fell with disappointment. "And here I thought you were something special." Jin gave it his all, but only managed to produce tiny sparks, which only succeeded in enraging the man. Johann unleashed a terrifying wave of power. Is this the end? Jin thought. After taking down his 2 lackeys, this main boss was just on another level. To die at the hands of a pervert. Life was truly stranger than fiction. Suddenly, Johann cried out in pain. The tiny wound from Jin's fire. It wasn't healing. Enraged, he unleashed a gravity attack, slamming Jin's body to the ground. Both fighters were now struggling just to hold on. Meanwhile, inside the phone, the Empire's poison butterfly was massacring the Dark Tribe, causing the demon god's power to plummet. Jin's murderous clone arrived just in time to confront him. With a deafening boom, the assassin was turned to dust. But the damage was done. Countless ant followers lay poisoned and dead. A notification confirmed his follower count was dropping rapidly. At this rate, all his divine power would vanish. Reviving them all would cost over 5 million coins. Without hesitation, Jin activated his skill. He used his ring finger's power to heal himself, then used it again to resurrect all his fallen followers. When you're a coin millionaire, you fear nothing. The pervert launched his attack, but it was too late. Jin shared the iron body skill once more, then used the divine middle finger to blast him. But the priest dodged the attack. "I will offer 999 gifts to the god of destruction. And you will be the most precious gift of all." My final piece, he wanted to become the god of destruction's heir. With a deafening crack, the entire building was torn asunder, as a malevolent eye appeared in the sky. The pervert was instantly obliterated by his own god. Now, it was Jin's turn. He suddenly fell into a vision, learning that the god of destruction once only wanted a peaceful life with his beloved, but he was betrayed by chaos, and now his heart held nothing but hatred. The priest's body was swarmed by shadow serpents, his life force drained in seconds. At that moment, Jin summoned a blade. The system announced this was the power of absolute extinction, a sword granted to him that could reach its ultimate potential. When wielded, it would merge with its user, granting them terrifying power. With a single slash, even the god of destruction was sent reeling. The shockwave Jin created was so catastrophic that the Hunters Association investigators couldn't tell if the devastation was caused by a god or a monster. When they finally found the pervert, he had been aged into an old man, his mind shattered from witnessing his own god being utterly defeated. 2 days later, Jin was recovering, his body covered in wounds from wielding the Nine Heavens sword. His niece cared for him, with the loyal sword demon standing guard by his side. "So that fanatic is the one who fixed your house. But what about the mission I gave you? Why are you just sitting here? You don't need to. Handle it personally." The Hunter Association's special task force, led by the renowned Hunter CEO Mina, is taking care of everything. Turns out, the Korean black market has already collapsed. Just then, a system window appeared. Quest: Prevent the God of Destruction's descent. Progress: 1 out of 1,000. Good karma has increased by 1 million. I've also met the requirements. For a promotion quest, 2 options appeared: God of Good and God of Evil. Both were insane missions, and I had to do them both at the same time. The system was really messing with me. Obtain 10 S-rank devotees. Or kill them. Should I even attempt this? Becoming a god of good or evil. The difficulty level was clearly set to hell mode. I need more strength and authority right now. But this quest was practically a suicide mission. Still, maybe there was an upside. Having followers from both sides who despise each other, I could win if I just played them against one another. With that thought, I went to visit Millie, who was still recovering. The moment I walked in, I saw her doing her 999th push-up. This girl's stamina was on another level. For someone that powerful, being stuck in a hospital was pure boredom. To her, 999 push-ups were just a warm-up. Ha ha. She even grinned and showed off how her scars had vanished, leaving me speechless. But just then, her older sister arrived, ready to lecture her for showing off her body to a man. A sharp slap left a 5-fingered red mark on Millie's back. Her sister then turned to me, her eyes blazing. "What is your relationship with my sister?" Just who are you to Millie that she'd act like this in front of you? She clearly thought I was some playboy preying on innocent girls. Millie immediately jumped to my defense. He's my master. This shabby, jobless-looking guy is your master? You're telling me this man is an instructor at the Hunter Academy? I was about to explain, but Millie gave me a look begging me not to reveal anything, so I just said I was a quality instructor. An instructor? Then you must be a registered hunter. But I've never seen you before. What's your rank? Actually, it doesn't matter. You don't look like anything special. Millie rushed over to defend me again. My master, Shin, is an incredible person. He may not be known to the world yet, and he might look a little shabby, but he could be way stronger than you, sis, so don't you dare disrespect him. At that moment, veins bulged on her sister's forehead in pure rage. So, the timid little kitten has grown claws, has she? Just because you reached A rank, you think you can ignore my words? Mina unleashed her skill. Mind control. A wave of psychic power slammed into Millie, forcing her to clutch her head in agony. Mina even forced her to her knees to repent. Seeing this, I instantly stepped in. Calm down. You could seriously injure her. The mental attack washed over me as well. But I felt absolutely nothing. The only effect it had was making Millie shout even louder than before. Mina furiously unleashed her full power. But it was still useless against me. Millie's eyes widened. Master, you can resist my sister's mind control. That's amazing. Mina was finally panicking. Could this guy be a higher rank than me? I thought to myself, sis, I'm only G rank. Please don't make me say it out loud. It's just too embarrassing. She awkwardly bowed and apologized, asking me to take good care of her sister. Before she left, she didn't forget to remind Millie to look after her health. My eyes fell on the gift she'd brought. Using my appraisal skill on Millie, a shocking truth was revealed. She was cursed by the abyss, something connected to the god of destruction. I immediately asked her about it. Suddenly, her beautiful divine face twisted into something terrifying. How? Did you know about that? Her mood shifted in a heartbeat. The pressure radiating from an S-rank hunter was no joke. If she was like this in a normal state, I couldn't imagine what she'd be like in a real battle. And to think, someone like her could become one of my devotees? That would be a living hell. I called Millie to the rooftop for a moment. My goal was to break the seal placed on her. But even after using numerous skills, the seal remained unbreakable. I thought it would be simple now that I was stronger. But I was wrong. Once this seal is broken, Millie will become an S-rank hunter, and that would bring me closer to completing my promotion quest. I used appraisal on Millie again. A portion of her power is sealed, but there were still no clues. My intense staring at the young girl's body was making her blush furiously. But finally, I spotted the source of the problem. To solve this, I would have to meet her sister in the association's prison. Inside that very prison, Yuhan was serving his sentence. He couldn't believe the god he worshipped was actually a demon who almost killed him. His faith had completely shifted, and he now worshipped me as his savior. Instantly, a system notification popped up. New fanatic devotee, Yuhan S rank. My quest progress was now 1 out of 10. But then, another notification appeared. Yuhan has died. He was killed by Mina for daring to attack her sister. The system window updated again. All possessions of a devotee belong to the god they worship. I was about to receive an offering. Countless warnings flashed on the screen. Accepting it would inflict pain equivalent to my body being destroyed. My agonizing screams could be heard for blocks. Just like that, I inherited Yuhan's power. Luckily, the promotion challenge wasn't cancelled. I thought carefully about my situation. With this much power, I could do almost anything. I could become a famous hunter, earning money and fame. But his fame wasn't the whole story. At his core, he was a writer. A third-rate one who just got his contract terminated, sure. But when inspiration strikes, an author has no choice but to write. So he poured it all out. An hour later, he uploaded 10 chapters in a single burst. This wasn't just fiction. It was his own raw experience poured onto the page. The reader feedback was bound to be on a whole new level. Just as he logged in, the comments section, and was completely floored. 9 out of 10 comments were roasting me, calling the author brainless. Just get another job. Right then, Millie burst in. She looked incredibly flustered. Faced with the pleading eyes of a beautiful, innocent girl, how could I refuse? The favor she asked was for me to become her guardian in place of her sister. Apparently, Millie had caused so much trouble at the academy that the principal had summoned her. This was something Mina could never know. So that's why her faith stat went up by 10. Unbelievably, Millie even offered to buy me a fancy suit so the whole world could see my dazzling good looks. I know I'm handsome, but not blindingly handsome. Is she starting to go down the path of a true fanatic? Hurry, we have to go, she urged. We're going to be late for the meeting. When the teacher questioned our relationship, Millie claimed I was her great-grandfather's cousin. Of course she did. It was a simple plan, with just one flaw. He was supposed to stick to the script Miri gave him, but how could he fool an appraisal skill that could see right through him? The teacher before him was a mountain of muscle. As a hunter with the same bloodline as Miri, he had to be talented. So Jin just played the part of an ordinary person. After all, who would openly admit they were a rock-bottom G rank, especially in the principal's office? Turns out, the old principal was Troy Gungsan, a legendary scrapper hunter. And now, he'd taken on this position to discover and nurture young talent. But his biggest headache was Miri. Not only was her power growing at an insane rate, but the higher-ups at the association knew she was being completely spoiled. It was critical to get her on a proper development path. He'd planned to have a private word with her guardian today, but he never imagined Miri's guardian was the same drunkard he'd met just the other night. The moment their eyes met, they froze for 5 solid seconds. The principal was still haunted by the terrifying power of Jin's flowerless dream. When Jin called him the old drunk from the other day, the principal snapped. "You! Don't you dare come near me," he yelled, instantly shifting into a defensive stance. Jin was baffled the old man had been so friendly before. Miri had to step in, reminding the principal that Jin had kindly given him 5,001. But that only terrified him more. He scrambled through the window to escape, leaving everyone speechless. He wasn't even asking for his money back. As he fled, his screams echoed through the halls. The students had no idea what was going on. This principal was a mess. The teacher had to step in and apologize, explaining that they'd run into a small problem. He saved someone recently. I think it's an occupational hazard. I'm sure he'll be back soon, haha. A moment later, the principal returned, looking composed enough to talk. Miri, meanwhile, was devouring snacks like a wood chipper, and even offered some to Jin, acting like she owned the place. Suddenly, the principal's gaze turned hostile. This was it. Our Hunter Academy is equipped with the latest technology. Let's head down and run a few tests. It was clear he was practically begging Jin to follow his lead. If you take the test, I'll do anything you ask. Jin saw his opening. Wipe Miri's entire absence record and stop forcing her to participate in training. The principal agreed in a heartbeat. And so, they headed to the Hunter ranking test, a completely pointless exercise for Jin. After all, his previous result was a pathetic G rank. Before him was a gray orb capable of measuring a hunter's power, an artifact worth millions of won. When he placed his hand on it, the orb erupted in a brilliant golden light. The ensuing data was absolutely staggering. The proctor thought he was witnessing the birth of a new S-rank hunter. He couldn't have been more wrong. The final evaluation was in G rank, the lowest of the low. Absolutely nothing worth looking at. You're pathetic. You're the worst I've ever seen. Jin was mortified, wishing a hole would open up and swallow him. Did he really have to be so direct? Beside him, the principal was in utter disbelief. "This machine has to be broken," he exclaimed. But the assistant replied that its margin of error was practically zero. The principal's mind began to race. He remembered. That night, the kid only unleashed that monstrous power times after times he passed out. The solution was simple. He just had to knock him out. With a roar, he lunged at Jin. Jin called for a VAR check, claiming these machines were useless, which infuriated the assistant. But a thought crossed Jin's mind. Those S-rankers he defeated. They all became his fanatical followers. If he taught this old man a lesson, he might just acquire the S-rank disciple he needed for his advancement quest. And so, he immediately accepted the challenge. The entire room went silent. A G-rank hunter was actually accepting a duel from a legendary S-rank? The muscle-bound teacher couldn't watch this unfold. He stepped forward, declaring it was unfitting for a Korean legend like their principal to fight in this situation. The two quickly moved to the combat room. The teacher advised Jin to wear protective gear to keep his teeth from being knocked out, but Jin just scoffed. "You should worry about yourself first." This teacher was a top-tier B rank, with combat experience rivaling a high A rank, but Miri just cheered from the side. "Knock him out in one hit." Jin. Her words only fueled the teacher's rage. The entire academy had gathered to watch. His internal monologue was screaming. That arrogant attitude, completely ignoring the chasm between our ranks. I have no idea what the chairman sees in this guy, but I will teach him the meaning of a true hunter. As the match began, the teacher shot forward like a cannonball. He threw a devastating punch, but Jin weaved past it with ease. He closed the distance again, unleashing a knockout blow. But it didn't even faze him. Jin raised a finger, activating his divine finger of power. With a single tap, the teacher was sent flying. He couldn't believe it. A mere G rank had just defeated a B rank? It was clear. This guy was hiding his true strength. Next, the principal himself entered the arena. His body was a tapestry of scars, from countless battles great and small, muscles coiled with latent power. But Jin wasn't intimidated. After all, gaining a disciple this strong would only skyrocket his own power. He could practically hear the principal thinking, just as I suspected, that machine was broken. But the power he showed that day was even greater than this. His plan remained the same: knock Jin unconscious and force the flowerless dream to appear. Before the fight began, Jin proposed a bet. The loser must obey one command from the winner, as long as it isn't illegal. The principal agreed. Now all Jin needed was for him to say the key word. The battle erupted. The principal unleashed his full, earth-shattering power, an aura so immense that even Jin felt a slight tremor of apprehension. This old drunk was no joke. He had to use his full strength to counter, but his casual stance looked more like he was showing off. The principal threw a super-powered punch, and Jin blocked it effortlessly. In the next instant, they clashed in a flurry of attacks and counterattacks. The principal's goal was simple: force Jin to work at his academy. His entire body exploded with overwhelming power, his eyes flashing with a divine light. Just as they were about to launch their ultimate attacks, a system window appeared. The ant warrior had conquered the 11th floor of the warrior's tower. Every cleared floor meant a new offering for Jin. But first, he had to deal with this old man. As their fists were about to collide, a bouquet of roses materialized between them. It was the offering from his warrior. The moment the principal saw it, his trauma from that night returned. He immediately turned tail and fled, screaming at the top of his lungs, "Mommy, save me." It was beyond hilarious. The ant saintess then reported in. Over 4 million people were begging to join his tribe. The disciple quest was proceeding smoothly. The system initiated an upgrade, doubling the size of his domain and constructing new regions for training. The system congratulates him on his growing number of followers. While messaging the saintess, he accidentally let a curse slip. Hilariously, his followers thought it was a divine greeting and started copying him. But then, the system flashed with a sudden alert. Warning: fanatical follower, Demon Sword, is attempting suicide. Intervene? Without a second thought, Shin teleported directly in front of Demon Sword, just in time to block a devastating, full-powered blow, meant for his follower. Seeing this, Demon Sword started wailing like a baby. "Oh, great sword saint, I'll give you all the offerings. I'm not dead, you idiot. Stop jinxing me." The attacker was none other than Mina, here for revenge. Apparently, Demon Sword had hurt her younger sister in the past, and now she was unleashing the full might of an SS rank hunter. This was South Korea's secretly strongest hunter, a power she never revealed to the public. She was on a completely different level than that homeless-looking guy from before. You couldn't even compare the two. A torrent of firepower rained down, creating a cataclysmic explosion. The crater it left was horrifying to behold. Thankfully, they dodged just in time. Sheen realized he couldn't even analyze an attack skill of this caliber. "She's actually trying to kill us," he thought. Next, she summoned a massive sphere of ice energy. It crashed down, flash-freezing Demon Sword on the spot. Shin found his own feet frozen to the ground, unable to move. But then he realized, this was all just a powerful illusion. Mina's true power was mind control. "Don't let her fool you." Mina herself confirmed it, her voice echoing around them. "My strength lies in the mental realm. All of this is merely an illusion." "But you don't seem to understand," she smirked. "A perfect illusion is indistinguishable from reality." As if to prove her point, an entire mountain began to rise into the air. "If your mind believes this illusion, your body will die for real. If you don't want to be crushed, state your name and your purpose here." So, Shin decided to tell the truth. "I'm just Ham Sam, that washed-up writer. My contract got cancelled for being lazy and greedy. Right now I'm focused on making Miri an S-rank hunter. I have no idea what's going on, but please, let her go." Of course, Mina didn't buy a single word of it. A mere writer? Die. The massive mountain illusion plummeted towards them. But Shin activated Skillshare. Physique. With a single, earth-shattering punch, he obliterated the illusion. Witnessing this insane power, even Mina was stunned. He shattered it with just one punch? Impossible. Meanwhile, Demon Sword's admiration for him reached a whole new level. The fanatic was about to disembowel himself for cowering before an illusion, but Shin smacked him upside the head, calling him a useless freeloader. Pushed to her limit, Mina finally unleashed her ultimate technique, her mental domain. Shin's soul was instantly transported to a bizarre dimension. The ground felt solid yet soft, and a gentle breeze carried a scent that was overwhelmingly peaceful. It made him want to just close his eyes and drift off. Though the space was empty, he could hear the faint chirping of crickets on a summer night. It felt like he'd finally found the tranquility he'd always craved. But his peaceful reaction only seemed to infuriate Mina further. With a flick of her finger, she began to sink his consciousness into the murky depths below. He tried to activate his skill, God's index finger, but it was completely useless here. "Once you're submerged," she warned, "your body will become a vegetable. You'll be trapped in a coma you can never wake from." Shin just calmly told her to chill out. But this hot-headed hunter wasn't having it. She repeatedly stomped him deeper into the abyss, demanding his true identity and purpose. But all he could say was, "Hey, I can see your panties. They're white. It's because of your short skirt. It's not like I'm trying to look." A vein pulsed on Mina's forehead as she stomped him down with all her might. As he sank, an overwhelming drowsiness took over his body. But just as he was losing consciousness, a system window appeared. Activation condition met. Flower of Nightmares has been triggered. A monstrous flower erupted from the depths, lunging at Mina. She barely managed to dodge, completely caught by surprise. She couldn't comprehend why this nightmarish entity would appear inside her own mental domain. This was her inner world no one could enter without her permission. "It must be because of that pervert," she fumed. Meanwhile, our hero was sleeping soundly, perfectly protected by the Flower of Nightmares. What a perfect chance for a nap. After a while, the monstrous flower's overwhelming power left Mina with no options but to desperately dodge its attacks. This crushing sense of helplessness. It was exactly like the terror she felt on that day. Suddenly, the demon flower's vines ensnared her, ready to turn her into a fresh salad. No, I don't want to die yet. There was still so much she had to do. Most importantly, she had to avenge her parents by killing the shadow dragon that took their lives. Suddenly, Shin found himself in an unfamiliar scene. The system had granted him access to observe Mina's deepest nightmare, entering the nightmare of Si-eun Mina. It all started 15 years ago. The shadow dragon, rightfully called the worst monster in history, appeared. With a single breath, it devoured hundreds of people, including Mina and Miri's parents. Then, it branded the two young sisters. The shadow dragon recognized their immense potential, marking them as future sacrifices. Thanks to a seal placed upon her, Mina was able to grow and become an S-rank hunter. After reaching that peak, she lived for one single purpose: to avenge her parents. But the dragon's curse was a double-edged sword. While it allowed her power to grow at an explosive rate, it also consumed her very life force, drastically shortening her lifespan. At this rate, she didn't have much time left. To prevent her sister from suffering the same fate, she sealed a portion of Miri's power, preventing her from ever reaching S-rank. And now, this guy was trying to undo everything she had sacrificed for. Just then, Shin was ejected from the nightmare, as Mina's mental domain completely collapsed after being devoured by the flower. Luckily, the monstrous plant spat her back out. Shin rushed to her side, and she seemed unharmed, until she looked up at him with wide eyes and called him Mommy? Now, being called her husband would be one thing, but Mommy was just plain wrong. The power of his ring finger had no effect on her. He even sent a private message to the gods, but they were useless. Then, the Flower of Nightmares itself suggested a cure. He had to sleep with Mina to fix her mind. Now, Shin may be a broke and disheveled writer, but he wasn't that kind of guy, the flower explained. The memories I absorbed will return to her through a shared dream. I've only regressed her mind to childhood for now. But this whole situation had accidentally turned him into a kidnapper of an S-rank hunter. Still, they were hiding deep in the mountains, so it was unlikely anyone would find them. Demon Sword had also followed him, hoping to complete his demigod promotion quest. Shin decided to invest in him by granting him the Heavenly Demon Sword Manual. If the guy could rank up, it would be a worthy investment. He even gave him a stash of holy water for training. But just then, with a thunderous boom, a new challenger arrived. Baek Yu-hyun, another S-rank hunter and Mina's close companion. He was clearly here looking for her. Demon Sword immediately stepped up, puffing out his chest. Do you have any idea who you're standing before? This is the Great Sword Saint. To think a so-called famous hunter could be so ignorant, it's truly disappointing. He then proudly declared that Mina had already been defeated by his master. Ehan's rage flared up. He dared to mock the Sword Saint, boasting, "Don't worry, my lord. I'll handle this trash myself." He charged forward at lightning speed, only to get slapped down by Yowen. Then, he vanished. It was an instantaneous teleportation skill. In a flash, he had the man by his throat. "Where is Mina?" he roared. For a moment, Shin was stunned. He could clearly see his opponent's sword soul was a colossal red dragon. This was going to be a problem. Shin immediately activated his divine finger skill, pointing it toward the dragon. Suddenly, the man's entire body froze in place, and the mighty red dragon began to sweat, trembling in fear. It was standing before the overwhelming majesty of a true god. In that instant, his dragon soul sword shattered into a million pieces. The man's face went pale. Just what kind of divine being had he provoked? In the middle of their chaotic standoff, Mina stormed in. Annoyed that her sleep was disturbed, she demanded they keep quiet. But when she saw the red-haired man choking Shin, she immediately labeled him a villain, sending him flying with her power for daring to touch her beloved. Then, she called out to Shin as Miri, causing everyone to freeze in place. Shin quickly played along, trying to keep her calm. Meanwhile, the red-haired man could only assume the two were dating, crying his eyes out in despair. Feeling a little sorry for him, Shin decided to heal his injuries. A system notification popped up. He realized he could grow even stronger. A new goal formed in his mind. He had to make Shin his follower to complete his quest. What an unbelievable skill. Not even the S-rank healer he met in South America could do this. Baek Hyun, he began. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Let me explain. But just then, 3 helicopters descended from the sky. On board were the principal and even Marin. Did they also believe he was some kind of perverted kidnapper? Upon seeing her sister, Mina immediately recognized her and ran over. How was he supposed to explain this? They were caught in the perfect storm of misunderstanding. Shin recounted exactly what had transpired, and with that, the full story of how Mina had sealed Miri's talent was finally brought into the light. Learning the truth, Miri cried endlessly. Her strict older sister had only been trying to protect her. As thanks, the principal's daughter presented him with a B-rank hunter license. After all, his battle with the monster flower was more than enough to prove his capabilities. The mere mention of it sent both Mina and the principal into a state of shock, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. By becoming a B-rank hunter, he was now qualified to be an instructor at the academy, but he still had so many other things to take care of. I have to raise my ants. And even though I'm just a third-rate author, I still have to write. Plus, I need to raise the stats of my S-rank follower. Anyone could see he was a busy man. But the moment he saw the ridiculously high salary, his attitude did a 180-degree turn. I will become a teacher. In fact, it has been my lifelong dream to stand on a podium. Can I start tomorrow? He asked eagerly. The next day, Miri was beaming with excitement in the classroom because today was the day. Shin began his class. However, his appearance was incredibly sloppy, and his teaching assistant was none other than the Sword Demon. Hello everyone. While Teacher Goguk is on sick leave, I will be your new instructor. The Sword Demon immediately put on his most villainous face. You brats, you should feel honored to be taught by the great sword saint himself. But then, Shin simply told the students to study on their own. He, meanwhile, was going to take a nap, leaving them utterly baffled. But they didn't dare make a sound, not with the terrifying Sword Demon watching them. From now on, do not make even the slightest noise. Anyone who dares disturb the Sword Saint's sleep will not be forgiven. The next day, despite the upcoming exams, he again told them to self-study and went back to sleep, and the next day, and the day after that. It was always the same story. The students were reaching their breaking point. What is wrong with this guy? We haven't done anything but self-study for 4 straight days. When he finally wakes up, he just plays some strange game with ants. What kind of teacher is this? Worse yet, he shamelessly devoured the free academy meals. Seeing that Miri was eating little, he even tried to finish her portion. His shamelessness knew no bounds. He's just a sloppy old man in a tracksuit who looks for any excuse to make us self-study. What's so great about him, anyway? But in Miri's eyes, just being able to see him every day was more than enough. She was on the verge of becoming a true fanatic. Her best friend, Mion, decided she had to step in. I have to pull my friend out of this delusion. Even if I have to face this fraud myself, I will shatter the illusion blinding Miri. The next day, during practice, she decided to challenge Shin to a duel, to open her best friend's eyes. However, he simply told the Sword Demon instructor to handle everything. He was going back to sleep. This only fueled her anger. How is this any different from self-study? He just arranges a sparring session and then takes a nap? She then pointed out that with 21 students, she was the odd one out without a partner. This meant he had no choice but to be her opponent. Teacher Choi said she'd dock my pay and make me buy my own lunch if I slack off. I guess I should at least pretend to work. Every day, he gave up his bed for the Miri sisters' treatment. Besides, how could he possibly sleep with those 2 freeloading drunks around? For a whole week, these useless bums had been crashing at his place, getting wasted every single day and night. They had their own rooms but refused to leave, choosing to leech off him instead. And just when they finally passed out, little Mina would wake up crying for food, leaving him with no time to rest at all. Meanwhile, Mary's best friend, who possessed. Miri's best friend unleashed her necromancy, summoning a massive zombie monster. But just as it was about to attack, it suddenly froze, then dropped to its knees, bowing respectfully to Shin. This lowly and defeated one is honored to meet the great and magnificent existence, the master of. None of them understood what was happening. All the students could do was stare in utter disbelief. Just how powerful was Teacher Shin to make a fearsome monster kneel in reverence? He instinctively placed a hand on its head, and instantly, the zombie's past flooded into his mind. He had been a knight of a giant god, but despite all his pride, he had failed to protect the priestess and lost his life in a fierce battle. He became a resentful zombie, wandering aimlessly in the underworld for thousands of years until 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 summoned him. It was a truly heartbreaking story. A system window appeared. You have successfully absorbed the holy power of the Mountain Breaker. You have acquired a new follower, Zombie Heath. On top of that, he could even evolve him. Evolution will consume holy power. One hand glowing with white light and the other with black shadow, he shot 2 streams of energy directly at Heath, triggering his evolution. A blinding light erupted in the room. Everyone was stunned, their curiosity about their teacher's true identity reaching its peak. Zombie Heath had successfully evolved into Heath, the Shadow. He immediately expressed his deepest gratitude. I swear upon my very soul that I will become your shield, Master Shin. At that moment, Shin collapsed, having consumed far too much of his power. A rare holy power left his body feeling completely drained, like his mana had been sucked dry. And yet, this same guy could now meet the gods who watched over him directly in his dreams. The beautiful goddess of abundance was even helping him recover his strength. What an insanely lucky break. But little did he know, while he was enjoying this divine buff, the evil monster from 15 years ago had returned, and its primary targets were the sisters, Mina and Miri, who had been marked long ago. And that's where the first part ends. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button for the bear.